Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Adult Child of Dysfunction. Today we have with us Becky Nieves. She is a cycle breaker, coach, mama for, and a no BS guide for women breaking free from generational trauma. She turned her pain into purpose after going no contact with her narcissistic father, and now she helps women rewrite their stories, reclaim their power, and create a legacy of freedom. Sounds just like what we all doing, right? This is so cool. Like it's like we're all on the same page. Welcome, Becky.
Oh, thank you so much, Tammy. Every time I hear my bio, I'm like, wait, is that me? Oh, I guess it is. It's, a little jarring sometimes.
Doesn't it sound fun when other people read it? I'll like write it out and go, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then someone reads it on a podcast. I'm like, ooh, touch me. Like that sounds good.
Right? Like, okay, I sound really, really cool. Great.
Yeah. So you said you went no contact 60 years ago with your father, correct? I don't even know
Yes.
how old you are. I can't even imagine. I can't tell by looking at you. You look super young. So, um,
Oh,
yeah, you do. I don't know how old you are. I have no idea. But was that hard? Talk about that. I'm
oh,
gonna
it was.
I'm going to just jump right in there because so many people question, do I go no contact? Or, they grow up their whole lives being, you can't feel that way about him. He's your father. Or you can't not like her. She's your mother. And
Mhm. Yeah, I call BS on that 100%. And honestly, I only wish I had done it sooner, quite honestly. So for inquiring minds, I am 42. Actually, I should rewrite the bio. It's now been 7 years. I went no contact when I was 35.
okay.
And that was after spending my pretty much entire adult life going back and forth, or we would like not talk for a few months and then I'd give him another shot and it would just repeat over and over again. And so finally I'm like, okay, we're just going to rip the band-aid off. But that wasn't my intent. Like it kind of happened where we had another one of our blow ups. Last conversation we had, I pretty much told him, well, you go to hell. And that was famous last words. And I just didn't talk to him after that. And he would reach out, or I'd have, like you said, other well-meaning family members reach out saying, "Aren't you going to talk to your dad?" Like, no, I don't think so. I think this time I don't want to. And it just morphed into now it's been 7 years and been living my best life ever since.
And no guilt, no regrets. Like you said, you wish that you had done it sooner.
100%. And I will say at the time, absolutely, I had guilt and regret. I mean, that's something that's taken a very long time to kind of dealing with the anger, the guilt. In the course of myself going no contact, my mother became ill with early onset Alzheimer's. And at that point, everybody was like, well, are you going to reach out again and let them, your mom's sick, needs help, all those things. And I'm like, no, I don't think I will because she was his enabler. And she made a decision a long time ago to put him before her children. And as hard as it was at that time, she was an adult, made a decision, and she had to pay the consequences for those decisions that she made.
Yeah, you shouldn't have to bear the brunt of that. And, and it's only going to get worse and it's never going to change because when you don't break free from the narcissistic person, which is your mom, the person that did not break free, she has no choice but to become completely codependent and completely enabling. Absolutely.
Yes. Yep.
100%. So, um, I, one of the questions you asked me, and I love this, is what does, because a lot of people say, I'm a cycle breaker. I'm going to break this generational trauma. I'm going to do this. But then it's like they think, okay, well, what am I actually doing to do that? What does that mean? What does that look like? Talk about once you got out, because obviously growing up with a narcissistic parent, were both of your parent, I mean, was everything else besides the narcissist? Was there addiction in the house? Was there all kinds of other things? Or was it more just the controlling narcissism?
I mean, I would say my father is also a high functioning alcoholic. But mainly it was definitely the narcissism, the what do I call it? The emotional neglect, I guess. It was like you have a roof over your head, I pay the bills, and anything else is unnecessary.
Right. You owe him. Yeah, yes. It's his
Yes,
world. You just happen to live in it.
exactly. 100%. We all exist just to make him look better. Yes, that was it.
Absolutely. So, what is it? So, talk about, first of all, what that did to your self-esteem, your sense of identity, all of the things growing up with a parent that long. Like, what did it do to you?
Oh, it completely negated my sense of self. I didn't trust myself. I think trust was like the biggest thing because if you grow up in a narcissistic household, generally, I won't say 100% of the time, but I found myself dating men who are very, very similar to my father. And it kept repeating and repeating and repeating. And I'm like, wait a minute, why do I keep? And then I had the moment where I'm like, oh, I'm a fixer. Can't fix my dad. I'm going to fix these guys.
Hmm.
Yeah, no, not going to happen. And then I had to make a very conscious decision at that point. And I can literally remember the point where I was like, okay, this is not working. I'm going to date somebody that honestly, I'm not even completely attracted to. They're not my type. Because it was a pattern disruption for me. I was like, I'm going to do something totally off the wall. And that's when I met my husband.
Oh, that's funny.
So, yeah, totally. Like I would never have looked at him twice. And that is when I met my husband.
That is funny. It's funny because I look back now, I've been remarried for 23 years, 22 years, something like that. And people are so funny and they're like, "Well, what did he see? What did you see in him? Like you guys are like really nothing alike. Like what did you see in him?" I'm like, "He wasn't my first husband. He was exactly opposite." And everything that I thought I loved about my first husband should have been a red flag. The
Yes.
excitement, partying, the fun, put me on this pedestal and just like love bomb me. I mean the whole it was all the things and it was so funny. And so when I met my second husband, I'm like, wow, he's exactly opposite. I'm like, this might be what I need.
Exactly. And it is, right? It was so funny that that was exactly like my sister. I remember she met him. She's like, wait, he doesn't have a tattoo. He doesn't drink at all. And I'm like, yeah, nope. And she's like, are you sure? And I'm like, yeah, I'm sure. And we're going to be married 15 years in October. So,
Amen to that. I absolutely love
yes.
that. So you grew up, and I'm going kind of back to this. I'm bouncing around, which is what I tend to do. You'll notice. I mean, that's what we do. We talk about whatever kind of strikes us. And as things come to my mind, I'm going to just ask you. But you grew up with a guilt of, like you said, you were this constant, I just have to make him happy. I have to just please him. As long as he's happy, everything's good. How did you start to break free of that feeling of, I don't want to be the bad guy. I don't want to rock any boats. I don't want to walk on, tiptoe around things. How did you start to break free of that?
Well, I would say for me, it probably started about age 14 is when I realized, wait, my family is not like other families. And then I kind of went in a direction that it was good, but it wasn't particularly helpful. I was like, wait a minute, I'm going to go to school. I'm going to get a psychology degree and I'm going to figure this out. And that is exactly what I did. I went, got a psychology degree. It did not help. If anything, it actually made it worse because, and then after I had gotten my bachelor's degree, I went back to my dad and I'm like, I really think you should see somebody, go see a therapist. And eventually he did. And when a narcissist does agree to go see a therapist, it's a red flag because then he did go to the therapist, he did go to the psychiatrist and said, they gave him a diagnosis. They told him he was bipolar. So then he came home and everything's like, oh, it's not me, it's my bipolar disorder. And I'm like, no, you're just an a-hole. But
Right.
yeah, that was so that was that. And then I think for me, my biggest tipping point, like I was okay, I guess, to a point being the whipping post, right, so to speak. It's what I grew up with. It was what I knew. Um, for me, where I was like, okay, this absolutely cannot happen anymore, is when I became a mom.
Mm.
Um, and particularly with my second child, she has a rare genetic disorder. And it'll affect her lungs. She's going to get pulmonary fibrosis. It's fatal. There's no cure. I mean, she's okay right now, but we have to protect her lungs as much as we absolutely can. And both of my parents are smokers.
Oh,
So, yes, it was like, okay, we can't go to your house anymore because you smoke in your house. Secondhand smoke is a thing. And then I was like, and if you come to my house, these are the rules, and we know that narcissists do not do boundaries well.
right.
Um, so that's where the fighting really started. It's like, oh, I'll just step outside and have a cigarette. And it's like, no, because then the smoke is still on your clothes. And I was like, and you're going to have showered, put on new clothes, and all. Like I gave him the list of, my non-negotiables. And as you can imagine, did not go well. And that's what led to that conversation. It was a lot of, well, you can't keep your kids in a bubble, and what are you going to do? Going, all the stupid little trope things that, narcissists will bring out. And so I was like, well, go to hell. I was like, I'm going to protect my kids.
Yeah.
So what I wouldn't do for myself, I did for my kids.
And sometimes that's what it takes. A lot of times that's what it takes. That's what it takes,
100%. Yeah.
leaving that narcissistic spouse or leaving the toxic household or the addiction or I mean, a lot of people do that for their children. And I love that you did that because there's nothing worse for me hearing someone talking to a child and they'll say or an adult child and they're 34 and then I'll say, well, when did your parents get divorced? And they'll say something kind of similar to my situation, like, oh, well, they told us they were getting divorced in first grade, but they didn't actually separate until ninth grade because they wanted to stay together for the kids. like, I always
Oh
want to go,
God, yes. Like, no, that's the
like,
worst thing I've ever. Ugh, growing
oh,
up,
it just
we would ask my mom, like, "Why are you still together?" And then it was like, "Oh, but if I separate, he's going to take you guys from me." And then as we all became adults, we'd ask, "Okay, we're all adults now. Now what?" And that's when we realized she made the conscious decision to stay because she wanted to stay, and that was a whole other can of worms that we had to deal with.
exactly, exactly. So you did it for your kids. So that was when you literally started setting the boundaries and not feeling bad, which now I'm sure you're probably like, wow, I can be unapologetically me. Like, this is so cool. Like, I can set boundaries, I can do that. So talk about what it looks like on a day to day basis because the journey is never over. You're always going to find these things. You're always going to kind of live in those shadows. Not, I don't want to say live in the shadows and not always, but people have memories and they sit deep. So the triggers, the day-to-day things that come up, how do you navigate that? And what are some tips you can give people to navigate that?
Yeah, 100%. And it definitely is. I mean, even 7 years out, I was still triggered. I had in a situation last year where I was in a group setting and there was this one individual who drove me bananas. And anger is something I've had to learn to control because of the anger, the guilt, and all that. And I sat there and I talked to my husband for a while. I'm like, why does this one man make me so angry? And I start talking about the interaction with my husband and I stop like mid sentence and I'm like, oh, I was like, he reminds me of my father. So I think it is recognizing when somebody gets under your skin and you're not sure why, talk it out loud, talk it out with a trusted person, and then eventually it'll kind of have your light bulb moment. You're like, oh, that's why. Or this situation reminds me of this. Or you start to notice that you do certain things because of the way you grew up. Like there's still things 7 years later. And my husband was with me when I went no contact. So he saw the before and after. And he knows my father and my family very well. And we were just having a conversation the other night and something came out and I was like, oh yeah, like dinner times, we didn't talk. It was pure silence. My father didn't like any talking. Now, mind you, I've been with my husband all these years and he's like, really? He's like, I didn't know that. And I'm like, oh, and it was something that just came out. Like you'll have
Right.
these little things just come out and you're like, I never told you that. I'm like, yeah, that's why I don't like a quiet dinner table and I make sure everybody talks and we ask questions. And it's just the little things that you do now as an adult that you're like, oh, I do this because of this. Or I know in my household, my dad was always served dinner first and my kids were served last. So I've noticed in my marriage, I always serve my kids first and my husband last, if I even serve him at all, because he might just get up and get his own stuff. In my culture too, it's kind of disrespectful. I've had my grandmother's like, well, why don't you serve your husband first? And I'm like, no. I was like, my kids come first. And he knows that. So it's just funny how those little tiny nuances, right? The things you don't think about on a daily basis, they come into play. So it's little fun things like that and just being aware like this comes from this. And I think once you can make the connection between what you went through to your present time, not saying that the anger and the guilt or even holidays for me are particularly tricky too, obviously, like Mother's Day, Father's Day, because you'll go on social media and everybody will be saying all these wonderful things about their parents on those days. Those are days where I just might not go on social media because maybe
Right.
it's triggering,
Right.
and knowing yourself enough to know how much you can take, I think.
Yep. And I always give like the people that I work with, write it down when something just hits you kind of funny and you just get that weird feeling, and you get it. Your body will physiologically react. Like you'll be like, ooh, like, why did I think that? Why did I say that? Why did I act like that? Like, why did I get angry at that? That was not, write it down and then go home and, like you said, talk it out loud, talk it out with someone. Um, I always tell people to write it down, and I'm a writer because otherwise you get home and you'll be like, what was that again?
Yes. Or leave a voice note on your phone real quick. I've done that. I'm like, hold on, I gotta like unpack
Yep.
this later. Yes.
Unpack this later. Exactly. But the important thing is that you unpack them all. Yeah. Oh
Yes.
gosh, holidays. When you mentioned the holidays, that brings up so much for me. We were just talking about that yesterday because everybody's like, "Oh, St. Patrick's Day is like my best holiday," and blah blah blah. And I'm like, ugh, ugh. I was like, I can remember growing up and being dragged every St. Patrick's Day to an Irish bar. And you ever know that, that song, The Green Alligator and Long Neck Geese? And I used to have to get up and sing it on these stages at this Irish bar while my parents were getting drunker and drunker. And I was like, oh gosh, it was humiliating. So every St. Patrick's Day, I mean, and I still work in a bar part time, and it's like awful. I never work St. Patrick's Day. I never really all the drinking holidays. I'm more on
Yeah.
social media saying, be aware of the children around you because when you see a lost child or, an 8-year-old by themselves, there's a good chance mom's asleep on the beach right now. That
100%. Yes. It's, and it's definitely, I know in my life too, like particularly with children, that's obviously why I do what I do, because I have 4 kids and I've gotten into the public education system. I even worked corrections for a time too. And that's where like the cycle breaking for me kind of started too, because, working in public education, working in the correction system, you can 98% of the time trace it back to something in childhood, something with the parents. And it's like, if we could be more preventative, I think, like you said, being aware of that lost kid on the beach, like you could be that positive influence in their life that maybe they don't turn out like me and you, right?
yeah.
That's pretty much, that's my, I always tell my kids, or anytime I'm interviewed, I'm like, my goal is to make sure that 20 years from now, my kids aren't sitting on a therapist's couch talking bad about me. Now, mind you, we can't parent perfectly, right? There's going to be
No.
something we did wrong. But I try, at least when I'm wrong, I apologize. And I'm sure they might have something to say about me in 20 years, but not that I was a narcissist or an alcoholic that couldn't function as a human being is
Well,
my
and
goal.
right, and you think about it too, and it's kind of the same thing with me. Like I knew that things were violently misaligned when I was 24 years old, 25 years old. I had bleeding ulcers from stress. I was partying too much. I had zero respect for my own body. I mean, like I knew all that stuff was going on, but it wasn't until I was 26 getting ready to have my first child and I was reading that book, Love You Forever. And it was that book about like I'm
Oh,
sure you probably read it 1,000 times. I still have 3 copies and I'm 57. Well, I will be this month. But yeah, that was when I'm like rocking back and forth and I'm sitting here and I'm like picturing, I didn't know whether I was having a boy or a girl, but all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, it like hit me like a 2 by 4. I'm like, I don't even understand what unconditional love feels like. So that
yes.
is what jump started me into my journey. So of course it was the very beginning. So yeah, did my kids take the brunt of a lot of it? They took the brunt of my healing. They took the brunt of my growth. They took the brunt of me not knowing what I didn't know. But I always, every time I would feel down about it, and I would start to be like, oh my gosh, the first 5 years, I had no boundaries with my kids. I didn't do this. I didn't do that. I kept just saying to myself, like, Timmy, you're doing better every day. And they see that and they're growing along with you. Like, so, for the parents and the people that are out there watching, never beat yourself up for where you are. Because you didn't know what you didn't know. Just like I didn't know what I didn't know, and you didn't, Becky didn't know what she didn't know. Like you learn and you grow. And a lot of times, I would say a whole lot of times, it is becoming a parent that goes, wow, I want to not be my parents. I want to not. And at the same time, I'm sure you also probably went into it like, I'm going to do the exact opposite that my parents did. And
Yes.
that's not the answer either. There needs to be a happy medium and you have to find that middle. But it's, oh wow.
100%. No,
Uh,
it is funny. I joke about that because what you said, it hit me so well because my kids, I had my first when I was 19. So I've got a very large age gap with my kids. My oldest is actually 22. I've got a 13-year-old, a 10-year-old, and an almost 4-year-old. Yes, I did that on purpose. And, and it's funny because now I can joke about it with my oldest because he'll say, "Oh, I was the test tube, the test baby." And I'm
mhm.
like, "Yeah, you kind of were." I'm like, "We grew up together." I was like, I was going through the thick of a lot of it, and not having any boundaries, not even aware of what was going on when he was, in his formative years. I mean, he was, what was he, 13? No, he was 8 when I went, no contact. So he has memories of my parents and the things that went on.
Hmm.
Um, my youngest has never even met my parents. So that's the juxtaposition there, like the two extremes, right? So I can literally look at my kids and like see like the evolution of my parenting. I call it my own social experiment, and
Right,
but it literally is. Like, I mean, my 23, he's fine, but even now I'm like, dude, maybe you should go to therapy too. And I try and I apologize. I think that's the biggest thing. Because a narcissist, someone who is toxic and abusive, they will never apologize for their behavior because they will never see that they did anything wrong. And I think that's the difference between us as parents now. Girls will say, hey, I messed up. I shouldn't have done this way. We give
right.
our kids what we would never have gotten. And I think that's the big distinction there for sure.
Right, right. And I'm sure like when, yes, and I'm not going to keep hashing on this out, but I know like I'll see something on TV and be like, you should never say this to your children. And I'm like, oh, I said that a lot to my kids. That old saying like, well, why can't I? Well, because I said so.
Yep,
That was probably one of the biggest ones. And I go, oh my God, how many times did I say that? And I can't take it back, but I just can't. But now, and I mean, my kids are all like, as I got older, I'm like, because, we don't do this and we don't, and I would explain. But I grew up and it was black and white because why are you questioning? Because I'm your mother. Like, you know what I mean?
exactly. Yep. Been there, done that.
Mm. But again, as they watch me, my kids are very proud of what I do now. My youngest is 21, my oldest is 30, and he still lives with me. So like he's finishing up his pilot's license. So he's living
Oh,
with me for a while and we're good. We're good. But wow, yes, how your habits that you just develop and these things that you become part of you, the coping mechanisms and the triggers but give me some tips. So besides being aware, obviously. So when you work with your people, what are some things like if they realize like, hey, I keep doing this to my kid and I just don't want to, but and I need to figure it out. What are some tips that you give them besides being aware?
yeah, no, I mean, awareness is the first step. And there are plenty of people I think that are aware, but they're still living in their victimhood. It's like, I can't move past it because this is what happened. And I think the biggest thing is owning that, like owning this is how you grew up. Like, sit and I think the anger, the guilt, whatever emotions come up for you, absolutely like sit with it, own it. Don't, so many people are like, oh, it's your childhood, just let it go. Don't pretend. And I'm like, no, because all you're doing is burying something, which,
Hmm.
I always say my biggest thing, what you do in the dark comes out in the light, right? It's going to come back up in some shape, form, or fashion. So it's like owning it. And then it's like, okay, you own it, you acknowledge it. Now it's time to like redesign that. What do you want life to be like? And then you need to actually live that life. So it's like, and I'm a big person, journaling, writing things down. So it's
Right,
like, do, verbal vomit on a page and then burn it, rip it up, flush it down the toilet, whatever it is that you need to do to get it out of your head, out of your space, and away. That way you've actually dealt with it, because I think too many times very well-meaning therapists will tell us, okay, well, yes, this happened, and now it's time to move on. And then you're stuck because you're like, I'm not ready to move on yet, or it hasn't
right,
been talked about. Like telling your story, whether you do it publicly, like we're doing here, or privately with a trusted person and the support system. Like you need a support system. I would say that was my number one mistake. I was like, I'm going to do this all by myself because I'm
hmm,
hyper independent because of the way that I grew up. I'm like, oh, I could do this, no problem. Yeah, no, that made my recovery twice as long as what it needed to be. Um, I didn't lean on my husband enough, friends enough. Nobody knew what was going on. Like now that I'm telling my story, people are coming out like I had no idea,
right,
and I'm like, that was the point because I didn't want people to know.
yeah,
Um, yeah, so I think that would be the best thing, like having that support system, whoever that is, not the narcissist, not anybody who's friendly with the narcissist, because then they will try to talk you into going back and making amends or whatever. It needs to be an objective third party would
right.
be my best advice to anybody.
I do this seminar called Awakening Yourself, Your Authentic Self, and I talk so much about that, about having that support system and how important it is because, you can, it's like affirmations. you can do all the affirmations in the world. You can sit there and say, I am beautiful, I'm amazing, I am loved, I am lovable, and everything else. But if you don't truly believe it, at the end of the day, when the rubber hits the road and you got to make a decision, you're basing your actions come from your subconscious mind, which is still
Yes.
saying, I don't believe it. So it's like when you try to do it yourself and you try to say, you actually won't even do it yourself. You won't go through with it yourself because you're like, oh, I should be saying I am beautiful, I am this, but I'm not. So you won't actually take the step. So it's like you need, like you said, that support system, someone to walk along with you and someone to hold you accountable. Because I think that's the number one is I was listening. Have you ever listened to Wayne Dyer?
Yes.
Yeah, so I was rereading or re-listening to in the car the other day the your erroneous zones, and it's like your
Oh, I haven't read that one.
Oh, it's a good one. It's like I think it's one is first, literally. But it's like, and it's I laugh because he says it's not erogenous zones, it's not like a dirty book, it's erroneous zones, which just means errors. And one of the biggest things that he talks about is you caring, and this is where we are as adult children, is you care so much more about what other people think than what you think. Like you care so much more. And it's like, why? But the other thing he talks about, which makes me laugh, is the expression of the idea that you don't have a choice how to act or how to respond or how to be, that you just say, well, my parents were, so I am, period. And
Yep.
it's like, well, yeah, it's like saying, he says, it's like saying I'm Italian. Like I have to get pissed off because I'm Italian. I have to have a temper. He's like, no, you weren't born with the temper genes. Like you still have a choice every single moment. So I love that. You should listen to that book. It's really cool. Um, but t so you have them journal, you have them just be hyper aware, just know, like feel it, and then a support system. Any other tips?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the person because everybody, my biggest thing, especially working in education, everybody's a different kind of learner. So whether you're auditory, visual, that sort of thing, some people do well with the visualization. I'm not a visualization person. Like when you tell me to like meditate and then picture I can't do it. It just it doesn't work for me. But for some people, it does. I did a workshop not too long ago, and it was Disney themed. I can do a whole other spiel on Disney and what that's meant to me, but I told people like envision yourself as your favorite superhero, whatever armor you need. And in that case, my superhero came to me pretty quickly. I was Iron Man because I was putting on my suit of iron, right? And like you're gonna go in and do battle, like visualize that if that's what it takes. If you're not a journaling person, some people are just a walk-in. I think it's learning what's going to work for you because everybody will have their thing that they said, okay, this worked for me. Like you said, affirmations. I was the same way. I would sit there and look at myself in the mirror and say affirmations till I was blue in the face. It didn't work because I didn't believe it. Or I
Right.
would listen to somebody else's affirmations, which is even worse because it needs to be in your own voice. If it's not in your own voice, forget about it. It's not going to sink in. Um, so I think it's definitely finding what works for you. Just like therapy did for me. Like I was in therapy for 20 years. Tried at least 10 to 15 different therapists, and it was again pattern disruption. I always go back to that. I always picked the same kind of therapist. And then I was like, wait a minute, I'm going to try a completely different therapist that I would never pick. I ended up with a younger white guy. Never would have picked a younger white guy for me. Being an older Hispanic female, that was a therapist that did the best for me when I had always gravitated toward older females because I was sure I was probably searching out my mommy complex. But, that's a
Yep.
whole other can of worms.
And you were, yes, and yes, absolutely. I was going to say that just went right through me when you said searching out because I was like, oh yeah, and that therapist was going to give you the validation and the support and the going on your side versus your father's side that you needed.
Yep.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Pattern interrupts are, I mean, that's why, even deep breathing and things like that, when you're like anxious or you're having an anxiety attack or a panic attack, that's why those things work. Those picture five of these and four of these, because it just stops your brain from what it's thinking from the normal flow, because our normal flow is not necessarily the way it should be flowing.
Nope.
So,
I always say like the normal that you think is actually, and that's part of the whole trust thing too. It's like you got to learn how to trust what your body is telling you. And I think when you grow up the way that we have, you don't trust your body because you've had an adult that you trust, love, right? You think that they should love you and take care of you. They're telling you the opposite of what your body's telling you. And I
Right.
think it's relearning that pattern for you. It's like, okay, yes, it's safe for me to sit and think and be like, listen to your gut, as they say, right? Or what is your heart telling you? And like, if you're still silent, which is, that's how I do things, then you're like, okay, what do I really want? Outside of
Right.
the noise, out of the because I told you so's, right? I think that's learning to trust yourself again. I'm still on that journey of learning to trust myself.
Yep. And that takes a long, a long, long time because then it's like when you get it mastered in one area of your life, then oh, here's business and I'm self-sabotaging. I'm doing all of that stuff there and it's still all about it all boils down to that sense of I'm not the not enough. Not good enough,
Yep.
smart enough, funny enough, happy enough, whatever it is, the not enough. That's the or the I ams, and until you learn that, and I love that you mentioned feeling it in your body because there's a psychologist, and I quote it a lot, and I use this example with almost everybody I talk to, but I can't remember who said it, so that's not good. But and she says, just you know, picture your favorite ice cream, and how does that make you feel, and feel it in your body, like your favorite food, right? Mine would be probably steamed clams, and when I think about eating steamed clams, I can picture the butter running down my chin, like I could watch them on the grill, and it's like, how does that make you feel? Oh my God, it makes me feel amazing. And then sit with the comment, I deserve all good things, and just sit with it and see what comes up. Because a lot of people go, oh no, I feel worthy. I do. I do. I'm like, well, try that. Try that when you're silent and sit with it. And if you have to say it 5 times, say it and see where you start to get the clench in your stomach. Your jaw gets tight, your neck hurts. Like it means there's some exploring to do. And then breathe into that spot. It's like
Yep.
breathe that I am lovable into that spot because it will. And then I love your visualization of throwing the paper away, burning it, writing, and it's a release. Like you gotta somehow get it out of that body.
Yeah.
And
It does
oh,
not have a home here anymore. And I love what you said about like feeling where in the body it was. For years I didn't realize I was doing it. And I still have to remind myself. I had my shoulders up like this and I didn't realize I was doing it. So now I have to like tell myself, put your shoulders down. And it's like that constant rewiring. So now I'm pretty good. And most of the time I sit like this, but every once in a while when I know I'm in a stressful situation, shoulders will come up 9 times out of 10. And
my
it's that
toes,
learning.
my toes roll. Like I will
Oh,
roll my toes in my shoes, and I can tell like when I'm getting tense. So it's kind of like I'll watch. Like I'll just be like, ooh, ooh, come on, Tammy, relax. And then I'll just, I do visualization does kind of work for me, but it works more for me for anchoring points. Like I spent a lot of time going to the beach, laying on the beach, looking at the stars or looking at this the whatever, the sky, and just feeling happy. Like until I could feel happy. So then when something got tense, I can literally now close my eyes and take me back to that spot. And it took a long time to be able to do that, but that's NLP, like that's a lot of
yeah.
visualization and things like that. But I agree, it doesn't work for everybody. And even the concept of meditation, like a lot of people are like, well, I have ADHD, I can't meditate. I'm like, but meditating could be nothing more than doing your laundry and counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, like it can be,
Yep.
it's anything that just you can walk and meditate. You can do laundry and meditate. That was my thing. I put on my headphones and I would listen to calming music and I would do my laundry and I would count how many times it folded me or how many pairs. I just it was a pattern, like you said, that
Yes.
pattern interrupt. And so meditating does not look like that. I can't even sit on the ground and cross my legs because my knees
No,
hurt.
no, that'll
It does
hurt.
not look like, oh, ah. Although I did hear something really interesting. And when people meditate and they go, ah, it is the only sound that you don't have to do anything to make. That is why almost every version of the word God has ah in it. Allah, God. If you look, there's
Oh,
tons and tons of gods. Most of them somehow have that ah, because like to make the sound buh, you have to move your mouth. Ah is just the most natural sound that your body can make.
yeah, because you don't have to move your tongue, teeth, lips, anything. You're right. Wow.
That's why when people
Fascinating.
meditate, I know it gives me goosebumps when I think about it, but when you see people meditating and they're just ah, it's because they don't have to do anything.
Because they're staying in their still, because I know stillness is a big thing with meditating. It's
Mhm.
like they're staying still because they're not even moving lips or, oh, wow. You
Hmm.
learn something new every day.
Yeah, isn't that kind of cool? And that's also that sound is the most open pathway, so it stimulates your vagus nerve the most.
Hmm.
So,
Wow.
like, yeah. So if you ever, it's a very good calming technique actually, just to be in the car, just it literally. So for people that are like, wow, that's interesting. When you're in traffic and you're angry, do that. It literally will just bring you down, not in a bad way, but
Yeah.
in a in a calming way,
This,
I guess you could say.
yes.
Yeah. See, you learned something
It'll,
already, and it's only 8:42. Go,
before I even
Becky.
finish my coffee. Thank you, Tammy.
Oh, you're welcome. Well, this has been absolutely amazing. I know we could talk about the cycle breaking for absolutely ever because it's so important, and I'm so excited that you do what you do, especially as a mom of four, because those kiddos, they need you, and they need, you can't pour from an empty cup.
Nope.
So, talk about just a little bit more. I don't want to keep you forever. Talk about the things that you do daily to stay in that cycle breaking pattern and like on a day, like with your kids.
Oh, with my kids, I think it's a lot of, for me, the one thing that I do for them that I wish someone had done for me is getting down on their level to talk. And not mean like looking down at them. I think it's so easy as a parent because of the height differential, like sitting down on the floor with them, looking them in the eye and just having a conversation. Or when they're upset, giving them that space to be upset. Because I know so many adults who've grown up the way that we have, they didn't have that. So I think in turn by giving them that and giving them, again, like you said, as a parent, you're like, oh, I'm just going to do the opposite of what my parents did. And then you raise very entitled, spoiled children. I learned that the hard way. So it's just, again, it's pattern disruption. If they're having that meltdown, it's like, okay, we're going to sit down, we're going to talk about it without judgment. And they know that they have that space, I think, at that point to come to me when they're having issues at school or some kind of problem. And it's all about communication because with me, I'm modeling a behavior that I want. So, if I'm ready to like lose my crap and, it's like, okay, maybe I need to go to the bathroom. Every mom will know. It's like, I'm going to go to the bathroom. And it's like, no, I need to reset. Right. So it's a reset, go to the bathroom, splash water on your face, breathe, and then go back out into the battle that is parenthood.
Right. And you're right because modeling is everything. It's not what you say, it's what you do. Actually, there's all those little cliches that I hate to use those little cliches, but actions speak louder than words. They absolutely 100% positively do. So if you're
Yes.
saying one thing and doing another, that therein hence lies the confusion and that's what kids don't like. Kids like to know. They would rather not like what they hear than not know.
Yes. And
It's
mine will ask until they figure it out because my karma was having very curious children. So I
yes.
know that. Yes.
Why? Why? And it's so hard because just because it doesn't matter, you know.
Yeah.
And I still find myself when people are like, "Well, how does that work?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I don't know how electricity works, but I use it every day."
Yes. Or my kids will tell me, well, how do you not know this? I'm like, I don't know. Go ask Siri or go ask Alexa. that's
Yeah,
that's a common refrain in my house because they would. I was like, but you don't know all the things. I'm like, no, I don't know all the things.
that's what I say. Google knows everything.
Yes, exactly. I'm like, go do Google. We have an Alexa now. Go ask Alexa. Yeah, no.
Yep. Oh, that's great. That's great. But thank you for all the helpful tips because for the listeners, I mean, so many of them are probably parents. I can only assume a lot of the people that reach out to me are on the beginning stages of this healing journey, are just figuring out like, maybe some of this did follow me into adulthood. Maybe I'm not as happy. Maybe when I ask myself, or say I deserve all good things, I don't embrace that thought. So the beginning tips and tricks are super, super helpful. Like I said, it's things that I wish that's why I do what I do because
Yeah,
had someone told me all the stuff when I was 26, it would have really sped up the whole process.
exactly. I wish I could go back to that 20 something version of me, but that's why we do what we do now.
That's what we do. What we do. You got that right. So, Becky, thank you so much for coming on. But
Yeah.
where do people find you? How do they work with you? I'm going to put everything you gave me in the show notes, but what is the best, quickest, easiest place for them to get to you?
Instagram. I am there. My DMs are open. I'm also on TikTok, YouTube, all the channels that Tammy will put in there. But yeah, I answer my own emails and DMs too. So that is the easiest way to get a hold of me.
You don't have an AI autoresponder bot?
No, I do not have an AI auto. I am a human first person. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love my technology, but I have a psychology degree for a reason. Tech is not always my friend.
No, amen to that. No, I was listening to something the other day and all the comments were, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I'm like, this wasn't even him talking because when he was supposed to say lives, he said lives every time.
Hmm.
He lives there. No, he lives there.
Oh
Like
my goodness.
right away, I'm like, it is not a real person talking. Like, stop. Like, and I just turned it off. I was like, well, okay, that might have been some valuable information.
Yeah,
And there's like
it's hard to.
5,000 comments. I'm like, 5,000 people that think they are listening to this really well respected person and they're not. Oh, it was just frustrating to me. But yes, we appreciate that. And which is why sometimes like I will say to people, I'm sorry, I got back to you in 12 hours and not
Mhm.
0.2 seconds because
Yes.
I actually respond to my emails too. So that's awesome. So before you leave us, can you give us one last words of bit of words of wisdom, or what would be your final advice to people listening?
Grace, 100%. Give yourself a grace. You're going to mess up. You're going to go backwards. Expect it. And I think if you expect it, you won't beat yourself up so bad if you do. Because even those of us like Tammy and I who've been doing this for a very long time still have our days. So it's okay. Get back up on the horse.
Perfect. Thank you so much for coming. For Becky. Thank you
Coffee,
so much for
coffee.
coming, Becky.
Yes. Thank
Oh,
you, Tammy.
you're very welcome. And for everybody else out there listening, you heard it. Give yourself that grace that you so deserve, no matter how hard it is. You are worthy, you are lovable, you are loved, and you need to keep moving forward because you are absolutely amazing. You all have a blessed day. Bye.
Bye.
I'll find the record button.